Hi, I'm Prophet Azad, and you're watching Atheist Edge.
Hey, welcome to Atheist Edge. Look at this, TJ, Courtney, Jim, all in the same boat.
Oh, it's not typical, is it?
No, not lately.
Yeah.
Courtney goes down to Austin and does, what was it?
Truth Wanted?
Truth Wanted.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just all five of us were together for that FFRF talk, though. You think that went pretty well?
FFRF.
Yeah, I do too. I think it went. I expected there to be a little more fireworks for that one, but yeah, all in all, it went well. Neither of these two really know what's going on, but this is a topic that's really near and dear to my heart. I ask my family, they call me Sheldon or Mr. Spock because I try to keep a zero emotion when I'm dealing with any type of issue, but this one, for some reason, sparks my emotions. And I'm just going to bounce it off you guys and see if you feel the same about it. We're going to start with cursing, whatever you want to say. Here, I'm just going to throw this and get your first thoughts on it. What are the origins of it? Why is it still around? Why are some words bad and not bad? What are the biblical prohibitions against it specifically? Is it even necessary? Is it necessary to flavor our language? Is there always going to be cussing? Is it the FCC? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I will say the FCC bans 68 words, terms, or phrases still to this day.
How would any of us know any of those questions?
I know.
I don't know.
I mean, I know
you won't know the origins of it, but
I know fuck was a word since like the 1400s.
Where do you think fuck came from?
A lot of people have a misconception. They think that it's an acronym that stands for unlawful carnal knowledge,
Which is a myth.
Yep. It does not actually mean that. And it was originally.
You didn't know that?
The term originally originated. It did mean to have sexual intercourse with.
But that acronym is a myth. It's actually it dates back to Old Celtic.
Yeah.
The first time it was used was in an old limerick, and it was F-E-C-K. Feck all. Yeah. And that was the first time it was ever used in Old Celtic. So yeah, so there's a lot of myths shrouded around.
There's never a dull moment here at Atheist Edge.
I do think though that like the idea, the concept of curse words or swear words or whatever probably was religious in nature.
Why?
Because you could take, like, there are different, like, depending on what you call it, there's a different motivation behind the words themselves. So like if you just say cuss, like that used to mean like an ornery person or an
old cuss,
an unlikable person or something like that. You know what I mean? But like, if you take,
that refers back to cursing,
right? Yeah. But if you go back farther and you take something like using profanity, right? The word profanity means something profane, which is in regards to something that is against the nature of God.
Oh.
Basically, so yes, I think
Great
the
segue.
Concept itself is religious in nature.
I feel like the opposition, at least, to profanity is taking offense, and I don't think that religion necessarily has a monopoly on taking offense, right? I think that's something that is much more culturally based than necessarily exclusive to religion.
What if we're in a room full of people and only one takes offense to a certain word? Is it your duty to curtail your vocabulary?
See, this is why I was like, I don't know if I want to be part of this conversation, because you and I are going to get it down a rabbit hole.
No, I'm just going to ask you that. Throw it out there. You can send it right on back.
Say again?
What if we're talking in a room full of people and one gets offended by what a certain word or a term or a phrase you're saying?
Okay.
Is it incumbent upon you to change your syntax, or are they the one that needs to go maybe find somewhere else to hang out?
That's a false. That'd be a
false dichotomy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the right term for that, but there are other options of that, because I think there is a level of just trying to use language for mutual understanding, and if it's something that's not effectively communicated, then it's about having another conversation just about understanding each other and not necessarily about offense. But I think that there is a lot to be said for being courteous to each other, but also not censoring language based on offense.
We talk about Christians a lot, But if we say Muslim, people, their ears perk up. Oh, is he about to be Islamophobic? No.
Right.
If I just say Muslim, and also to distinguish the difference between attacking the ideology and attacking the person.
Yeah.
Attacking Muslims, we all agree, is different than attacking the ideology of Islam. If you say Jew, whoa, it gets even more.
Right.
But Jew is just a person who follows Judaism, right?
Right. Well, a lot of people though think, I know this is kind of a side topic, but Jewish is a pseudo
ethnicity as well.
Pseudo ethnic distinction. It's not a real race. You know what I'm saying? It's halfway between is and isn't.
I consider it 100% ideology. If you're a descendant of that tribe, then
if the Canaanites, the Canaanites turned
you're going farther back than I would say Hebrew, but even before that was Canaan.
Yeah.
But there are no Canaanites left.
No, there are no Canaanites left.
Right.
But
anyway,
there are those who culturally identify as Jews.
The segue was when you were talking about biblically mandated, I forget which one, but this is what the Bible says about it. I'm not quoting scripture, chapter and verse here. Yeah, there's a lot of them. But this is what the Bible says is a no-go. Anything malice, slander, obscene talk, corrupting talk, careless words, filthiness, foolish talk, crude joking, irreverence, and crooked speech. That's all the Bible says about it, except for the one that I will throw Christians a bone. The one thing that I would consider a curse word on their behalf, I don't consider it, is God damn you. God damn anything GD.
A lot of people usually have a big problem with that one for some reason.
It's the biggest one, and it makes sense because that one is the really prohibited one. You're calling on God to damn someone.
So
calling on God to do something in the name of God to damn someone to hell forever.
Right.
That is really I'll give them that.
That's a swear.
That's the origin of
swearing.
But this is also what the Bible said. All this crooked speech, crude joking.
Okay,
right.
What are you saying? These are just terms used in the Bible?
Yes.
Or this is okay.
And they're prohibitions against don't
there's
do
several.
These.
Okay, so let's take one. James 5, chapter 5, verse 12 says, "But above all, my brothers, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or by any other oath, but let your yes be yes and your no be no."
That sounds like testimony.
Condemnation.
Yeah. That sounds like a testimony.
Right.
Like swearing an oath. Don't use God like I swear to God that this is true.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Wait, so
don't base your
So what are you asking?
Well, he's just giving an example of what's prohibited in the Bible.
Called about swearing and then
I'm trying to point out none of us believe in the horse shit in that book anyway. So and increasingly the population is getting more and more secular. Are swear words going away? Are they necessary? And imagine
swearing has become more common in everyday parlance.
It's become more common than before?
Yeah.
I think that new terms are used as swear words. There's like updates of what's considered a profane thing to say, and certain things that used to be considered offensive to say are commonplace now, and they almost don't even mean the same thing.
Right.
So Connor, jump in.
Connor, jump in.
No, you can stay right there. Just be loud.
You can get in the shot or not. It's fine.
I gotta say, on that topic of things that were profane that are no longer profane, the things that were profane and are no longer profane are things like shit. Who cares?
Right.
No one cares about shit.
Right.
It's a thing that happens. Things that are profane are actually offensive terms now.
Yeah.
The F word that is not fuck. Things that actually are upsetting to real people.
What's the F word that is not fuck?
Fag.
Yeah.
Because of who you are, things that are actually a problem to fucking say to somebody.
Yeah.
Those are now offensive.
Yes,
and that's a
true.
good thing.
Fag means a cigarette in Australia, yeah.
Well, now that would be an interesting conversation for us to have, though, is that I think you and I would disagree on how on the like what to do about certain terms like that of what to do about the offensiveness of something like N-word, F-word, things like that.
Yeah, see, it's funny. Great segue, Courtney.
Like, is that what this conversation is for?
You just said F-word and N-word. By saying the phrase N-word, everyone in this room thought of a word just now.
know.
You put that word in our
I don't
heads.
like
Right.
that
Is it any
argument, though.
different than
Yeah.
just coming out and saying
So
it?
it's like
It's
you're not
slightly
fooling
more
anybody. Yeah.
But you already put that word
Well,
in our
okay,
head. What
it's-
is the
it-
difference?
I
That's
think
what
What's the difference between
replacement
saying the
words.
N-word and just
I
saying
think-
the
I
word?
think the thing is,
Replacement
though-
words like GD and
Yeah.
and gosh
I think,
darn.
I think
Yeah.
that it does.
It's
It
like
does
you're
make
fooling
it.
God into not.
It's
like,
you
thinking-
put the words in our head anyway.
Okay, but it does make it more clear about how you're using it and why you're using that.
The intent is more obvious.
Right, like you're not coming out and saying that, and it's not something that's particularly.
You can't get in the shot.
Yeah,
Probably.
you can.
Do an R and Raw
Yeah.
and just come behind
Oh,
us.
yeah. But
Just
like,
don't mess up the green screen.
does that make sense though? Like that it makes it a little bit more clear about you're using it in an intellectual sense than like an offensive sense or like some sort of attack on somebody else.
Why couldn't someone just assume better of you and just assume that you're already not using it?
I'm going to say my piece. I'm going to let
No,
Connor take my spot.
It's about trying to just make yourself clear, no matter how it's going to be
I'm
received.
going to say my piece, and I'm going to let Connor take my spot because he's not here very often. We were talking about fag. We talked about, Brian said, in Australia and Britain, it means cigarette. Here, it's bad. Cunt is, see,
It's commonplace in England.
we wince here, but over there,
we
it just
didn't
means an idiot.
Pretty
Yeah.
normal for me.
Pretty normal.
Over there, it's like
They
saying
say that shit all the
dummy,
time.
right?
Yeah.
Fag.
Yeah, cunt, yeah.
Fag used to mean a old crotchety man. Then it became an old widow. Then it became a bundle of sticks for kindling. Then it became a homosexual person.
Yeah.
So it evolves. And the last thing I'll say, and you guys just take this and run with it, is because this is very near and dear to my heart. I think profanity, quote unquote, is going to go extinct.
Why?
Because there won't be any distinction between fuck and house.
Why?
Why
would that ever happen?
I don't think there's a need for profanity. I don't think
I don't
there's
think
no
there's a
word.
need for the
I think
concept
I
of
understand what
having
he's. I
profane
think what
words.
he, I think I understand.
There's
what he's trying to
there's
say.
no
Okay,
need to
what
flavor it.
You
I
try to
think what
but
he's
they're
trying to
just-
say is that there's a certain weight assigned to words.
right.
I'll leave it at that.
Right.
Connor, get in.
And so, like, if you say a word,
Ooh, watch out.
he said the word house, right? No one has any real
Jim, can you
weight
fix the light?
to the word house. That doesn't mean anything special. That's not a hurtful term to anyone. It's not a significant term. And I mean, it might have some special significance to you if you're a home builder or something, but it doesn't have a special weight.
That's what I would say about most words people consider profanity.
But things like fuck, if you said
Yeah.
fuck in public in the 50s, people would be like, oh,
Clutching their pearls, man.
he said fuck. I can't believe he did
Because
that.
they know what you're
And-
talking about, and you don't talk. And apparently, there's certain things you're not supposed to talk about in polite society.
And in
openly.
polite society these days, I mean, you can get away with saying things like fuck
yeah,
more these
more.
days.
Yeah.
And not always, not in every circle, and especially in religious circles, there's still a problem with it. But as secularism rises,
Right.
as people understand that words like fuck and shit don't matter,
Right. there's words.
then people will become less upset by them. Now, what I think he's not acknowledging is actually what I brought up, which is that certain words, genuinely offensive words, will continue to exist. They'll just take
Yeah.
different forms. It'll be less people upset about, oh, he referenced fecal matter in a way I don't approve of,
Saying offensive
and it will
things.
be more like, if you referred to a transgender person in a particular way, then they would be upset by that.
I think that's
and they would be
everybody
right to be
though. If
upset
you
by that.
disrespect people and try and your aim is to like piss somebody off, you can usually
Well,
accomplish
you see, that's
that.
the thing. You don't necessarily have to be trying to do that to achieve
No,
that. And that
but I
kind of
get,
goes back to what we were saying about the N-word
Yeah.
and how you say the N-word
Right. I
to
wouldn't
mean in
consider
an
it
academic
profanity.
sense.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
profanity, but I definitely think that there's so much baggage attached to the word
Yeah.
that it's just not a good fucking rabbit hole to fucking go down. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah.
not worth it.
Yeah.
To
Just, well,
have
not
yourself
worth it and not
not
necessary.
understood or not necessary. I mean,
Yeah.
because if I wanted to call someone a dirty piece of shit, I would just call them a dirty piece of shit. I don't need another word like to say that.
You know what I think
You know
is
what I
actually
mean?
really interesting on that? There are some things that you can call people that are hurtful, that are timeless.
Yeah.
You can call someone
Right.
selfish.
Yeah.
And that always has a little bit of a sting. If there's
Yeah.
if there's any truth to that at all, you will
Right.
always be a little upset by that.
And I think
Yeah.
we all.
But you can't
are
just go, you're a
little bit.
selfishist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
You're so
as long as it's a character assassination.
We haven't imbued it with the expletive factor that we have other words, for sure.
Well, and I find it interesting that, like, Jim and TJ especially, you guys kind of have this really soft spot about
expression.
about offense, about terms having weight and having an effect and needing to account for that weight, or at least be aware of it in a respectful way. I think you guys tend to wince about that, about, like, I shouldn't have my language policed. And I feel like there's a fine line between that, between being respectful of others and being aware of the weight that your language has, and people, like, freaking out about, oh, well, they're just offended and they should fuck off. You know, it's just like, I think there's a conversation in between those lines to be had about that. And I don't know if you guys would be up for that, but I feel like this conversation is more about that.
I think there's something inherently messy about that can't really be tackled in any kind of
Yeah.
wide sweeping way.
It's
Some people
nuanced.
so, like, an example, I've seen so many posts online of, like, someone says, I should be able to say this because these are just words, they don't
Right.
matter, and if you get offended by this, then that's on you. And then, you know, I'll see several people who respond who are just like, well, that's wrong, you shouldn't say that. And that's okay, that's a kind of a weak argument, just saying it's bad.
Right.
Doesn't really give anything. And then you'll see one person who's like, I have a personal experience with this, and this is where I come from on this, and this is why this personally hurts me and makes a noticeable, like, harm to my life that you said this.
Yeah.
And it's those exceptions that make it impossible to have a widespread rule of what is okay and what is not okay
Absolutely.
thing to say. And I think both sides of the argument, people who are saying that I should be able to say whatever I want whenever I want, are wrong, and people who are saying, well, you gotta
Right.
make sure you never upset anyone,
Right.
are
Are
equally
also
wrong.
wrong.
And that's
There
what I
is no
mean is,
clean-cut way to do this,
be
and
able to-
everyone wants
Yeah.
one,
To be
but
able to
life isn't that
think.
easy.
Right.
To be able to risk thinking in the world that we live in, you have to risk offending.
You might upset
Yeah,
someone
but-
no matter what you say.
To think properly about the world and the reality that we live in.
I
you
think
have to
every one
risk
of us in
offense.
this room, just by living, is offending someone.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
But-
being atheists, being us, just upset someone.
But what I want to be careful about is I feel like that statement is used to justify the extreme of what you were saying, of, like, I should be able to say whatever I want, and who
But
cares
the
who's
on-
offended
but
by
the-
it. And that's, you know, there's a wide range of in between those two extremes. Jim.
Jim.
Three things came to mind. The first one is, you guys have been saying every word that a lot of people find offensive. You've been freely saying it, except for one. I'm not going to say which one it is. You've been dancing around it.
Why?
You've been giving replacement words.
Just because
The N-word.
It's like I said, it's
No
not
one
worth
will.
it.
No
It's
one
just
will
not
say
worth
that
it
on
to me.
camera. My question is there any word, any one word, not a term or a phrase, any one word in the English language that should never be spoken, regardless of context?
No,
No.
because that's the room for education.
But when you
about-
start
about
stringing
being
words
aware
together
of it.
and creating phrases and sentences, though.
If
And-
for no other reason, then how do you tell somebody what word they shouldn't say without saying the word?
Right.
And when they say the N-word, what's it doing? It's putting that word in our head anyway.
Well, it's also giving it more power.
Right.
than it
It's like
deserves.
saying, gosh darn it. I think God knows that you meant goddamn. Right?
But what?
I think
You're not-
everyone
you're not
knows you
fooling
meant
him, right?
goddamn.
You're not fooling
well,
him.
that's
You're not
separate.
fooling him.
That's separate, but it's also like, there are certain terms that aren't necessary to be said because of the heavy baggage behind those
Yeah,
words.
that's what we were
And-
saying earlier. That
And it is a sign of respect. I mean, language is all about a symbol. I mean, the sound
It's
itself
shorthand, right,
doesn't
for an abstraction.
actually inherently mean anything.
No.
That's why everyone has different languages
they're
wherever
not
they live.
objects in reality.
So all these terms exist with an implication of what they mean and what they say about the speaker. And so if you say the N word instead of actually saying it, then you are saying it with an implication of respect to the way that it might make people feel. And I think it is personally very unfortunate and upsetting that there are words that have such weight and that matter so much to the emotional stability of people But that's not the fault of people who have these reactions. It's the fault of the people who abuse language to abuse people.
That's a very good point.
And there's nothing that we can really do about that.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Matt, you're welcome to jump in if you want.
That's all right, Connor.
Oh, no, I'm sure you can say it better than me.
I doubt it. No, that was good.
Yeah, no, that should be on a t-shirt.
That's Matt Dillahunty in the background.
Matt Dillahunty off camera.
Say it one more time.
So, the point that I was going to make is, I've called people out for the avoidance of using harsh language. So when you were saying, they say, "Gosh darn it," they're not fooling anybody.
Yeah.
And it's always the concept that counts. And so for me, people can be offended by anything. I only care if I am in agreement with and understand why they are offended by something. If you're offended because I said, "God damn it," well, I think that's a ridiculous thing to be offended by. And I find it even more ridiculous that you're going to avoid "God damn it" and say "Gosh damn it." The reason, as Connor was pointing out, for me, there are words that I don't use other than in an academic source to be able to tell somebody or describe this. And I think Connor's exactly right. The reason why I will say the N-word instead of actually saying the word is so that the people hearing me know that I'm aware of the connotation and the damage that's been done, and I'm being respectful of that. It's not because I feel like I couldn't say nigger if I needed to say that to make a particular point about the word.
Right.
Yeah.
It's showing that hey, I'm not clueless. And it reminds me of those people who use the word niggardly only to show that it comes from a completely different etymology. Yeah. Oh, it's a different origin. I didn't say what you thought I said. You guys are just as douchey as the people who are using other things, because
Who does that?
if you are using language either with the intent to cause someone stress and be mean and vilify or belittle, that's a problem. And the N-word is one of a handful that get that kind of status because of all the baggage that's behind it. It's not that, oh, no one should ever utter the word because the word is magical or this other thing. It's about recognizing the impact that it has.
Yes.
And nobody will ever police what language that I can use but me.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Regardless of context, you actually said the word just now. That ended a conversation. Do you know Zachary Moore?
I know Zach,
yeah. So we had a one-on-one, and he put a wrap on the interview, and I said it in a similar context. That was the end of the show.
I feel like
I love Zach to death.
there might be
Don't
a
get me wrong, I love
consequence
Zach
to-
death, but yeah.
there might be a consequence to like people soundbiting and making you say something you didn't mean to say.
Right.
The instant you said it, I was worried immediately. An online headline:
That
Matt
is-
Dillahunty says the N-word.
That is another reason not to do it. And if there's anybody who felt that my usage of it in that context where we're talking about it was wrong, I'm happy to have them contact me about it, because
Yes.
if anybody thinks that I meant that in anything other than an academic point, after clearly pointing out, that we should be respectful and why I don't use that word in any other context, I think I'm on pretty good footing here. But if I'm wrong, I'm open to being corrected, and then from then on out, I would only say it in euphemistic terms.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Second thing, why is it that curse words or cuss words almost always deal with bodily fluids, bodily functions, or sex?
I
And
would-
now in modern times, as that's becoming more and more, we're more and more open talking about our bodily functions and sex. Is that another reason why it's going to go away?
I don't think it would go away.
I think I think saying "go away" is a bad way to phrase what you're trying to get at. The weight of it will go away, but the words are gonna stay.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep saying shit and
That's what I
fucking
meant.
piss.
That's what I meant. Good
That's
call.
gonna stay.
But people's reactions to them change
but
all the time.
The
I think
emotional
the
reaction
reason-
to it will go away.
I think the reason that those things were considered offensive at one point, and these things that are now being considered offensive, is because of a change of culture. And you can even look at the age of people, the average age of people. Look back at medieval times. People were not living as long. People just used to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say, like, you're right though, because in a way, but then again, also too, to me, it seems like a lot of the cuss words you say that deal with bodily functions or something, it's things that we do while naked, usually. Take a shit, have sex.
Vulnerable moments.
Vulnerable times when your exposed body is on
Well, yeah,
display.
people
basically.
don't like when they're naked.
Maybe it's a way
they
for
feel-
people to react to things that happen, and you're supposed to be shameful of your own naked body.
And nudity has always been a shameful thing in religion.
Right, and that's what I'm
so-
saying. Like, you know, the religious aspect.
Can we go back to like the idea of
Cleanliness
these,
is next to godliness.
Right,
all these
that
things
whole
are considered
thing.
dirty.
the idea
Yep,
of these
sex and
things
shit
of these things going away? Like I want to clarify what you guys mean by that, because I think that there's always going to be a sense where language is used to intentionally offend other people, no matter what words are being used or what the context is.
Of course.
Oh, yeah,
for like
you can say
any
anything
time.
with vitriol
You can
and
say-
hate.
So what I'm curious is,
you
are
can
you
tell
guys?
somebody their mother never loved them,
Right.
and you're going to get the same effect as some other
and
words.
that's a sick like burn,
Yeah.
depending on how you do it.
Yeah.
Right. So are you saying that the concept of like of certain specific words are going to be used differently or lose their weight, or are you saying that
That's what you're asking him, right?
Right. That or Jim, that the act of, or are you saying that the act of this situation of a language being used to intentionally offend another person is going to fall by the wayside?
I think I can actually answer your question by continuing the point that I was going to get on earlier, which is just that previously people were not as mature, educated, they didn't even live as long to have the same level of life experience and whatnot like that. And of course, as society continues, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, we're learning from past mistakes continuously. So back in the day, people were not very bright. I mean, look at any like high school humor. It's butts and farts and ha, and those things are considered avant-garde at that stage. And as was mentioned, there's a level of nudity and dirtiness is bad, and therefore that makes it offensive
To talk about
and
those things, yeah.
as we go forward as a species, I feel like we become more aware and okay, especially as scientific understanding goes on, that nudity is fine, that our bodily functions are normal, and who the hell cares? Everyone shits. That's not a problem.
Everyone
But who you are and what you are might still upset people.